And you know, the annual encounter takes on a new meaning today with the inauguration of the Sir Stanley Rouse Cup there. And remember that there has to be a result today, not a case of extra time, but a penalty shootout. Now, as we see those scenes building here inside the stadium, let's just bring in Terry and Bobby. Terry, really, it's a big game for certain players today. I'm thinking in particular of lads like David Speedie, Glenn Hoddle, Trevor Francis, Gordon Strachan, perhaps.
Well, this is the good thing. We say, well, we're losing players from Everton, but at the same time, we're giving opportunities to players that you want to try. And like we were saying earlier, it's all very well saying about your record, but really, the main thing is the big tournaments you've got to qualify for. And the only way you're going to find out about these guys is to play them.
The only thing about that, Terry, from my point of view, is that they do play such an important game on Tuesday, Scotland. So you'd have thought that they would want to play the side today, that they want to play in Iceland, in Reykjavik on Tuesday.
Nevertheless, I mean, they might have to. If there's injuries tomorrow, they might call upon the boys that play today.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's been good preparation, and you've got to try to dip in the whole of your squad. You can't just rely on that you're only going to be playing 11 players. And the most important thing for players in their mind is to be able to adapt and feel part of the team. And until you've actually played, you don't feel part of that team.
Yeah. Bobby, I mentioned Glenn Hoddle again. It seems to be mentioned 1,000 times almost. Well, here's another chance for Glenn. Will he take his chance?
Well, I think they've just out and out said to him today, actually in public, you know, that this is your chance. He's maybe come on as substitute and it's not really been satisfactory, but he is there, and if he performs particularly well, I would say that the position is his, certainly for the trip to Mexico during the summer and the possibility of the World Cup next year. He's got a great skill, and I used to think when he first started as a young player that he was going to be absolutely phenomenal. I still think he has that phenomenal skill, and I think it's too good to be wasted. I think that we should be able to utilise it somewhere or other. But nevertheless, he seems to have fallen down in his work rate. That always seems to have been the main criticism about him. And you'll never get a better chance to prove whether you've got work rate as he has in the match today against Scotland.
OK, thanks very much. Out we go again onto that pitch. Those pipes there, they really raise the old spirits of the home fans here. And we'll stay with them now until we go to our match commentators, Jimmy Hill and John Moss.
So football's oldest international, now 100 and more years old. 1872 they first met, but today England and Scotland play for the Rouse Cup. And Sir Stanley, fittingly, having just celebrated his 90th birthday, is guest of honour at Hampden Park this afternoon. As always, at Hampden or at Wembley, the tartan flags predominate. And in those 113 years, the record between the two countries remarkably close. England have won 40, Scotland have won 39, and there have been 23 draws. Strangely, only 2 goalless draws, including the first ever match back in 1872, which was played here in Glasgow, although not on this ground. Hampden itself, which once held over 149,000 for an England-Scotland match back in 1937, the capacity now cut to just half of that because of the renovations going on, which have not been completed by any means yet. Still the famous press box there on the top of the main stand. But altogether, £5 million will be spent on Hampden Park over a 5-year period to make it more comfortable and indeed safer for the spectators. Brian Robson and Peter Shilton having a last-minute chat before the teams come out. Peter Shilton winning his 70th cap today. Means he could become, on the summer tour, England's most capped goalkeeper. Bear in mind the background to this switch. The 2 associations, after government advice, moved the match from Wembley to Hampden this year. But the plan is to play it at Wembley next year, not though on bank holiday weekend. There are a few English people among that crowd. You won't see them too easily, but just worth making the point that they've had to obey the rule up here now, north of the border. No alcohol in the ground and no drinks on buses or trains coming to the match. The Scots believe that's helped to combat the hooligan problem, which is now, it seems, under control north of the border. The Scotland captain is Graham Souness. But he's got an unlucky record against England. Graham has played 4 times in this fixture and been on the losing side every time. And indeed, Scotland haven't won here at Hampden against England since 1976. Just one other landmark worth a mention. This is England's 600th full international. And their current manager, Bobby Robson, has an unbeaten side this season in 7 matches. 5 wins and 2 draws. The Scots made a good start to the season, but have lost their last 2. And Sir Stanley now escorted by Bert Millerchip, the FA chairman, for the ceremonies prior to the start. Scotland team are in a bit of a hurry there to kick in, but Sir Stanley will be formally introduced to the two sides. This fixture used to mark the climax of the British Championship, but when that was finished last season, and England and Scotland decided to pursue their tribal rivalry with this one-off match, it was felt that a trophy was appropriate, and who better to give his name to it in his 91st year now than Sir Stanley Rouse, who did so much for English football in his many years as a referee and indeed as Secretary of the Football Association and later President of FIFA. He's meeting there the French referee, Michel Vautreau, and his two French linesmen. Opportunity knocks for one or two Scotland players who wouldn't have been in the team had Jock Stein had his full complement to choose from. Steve Archibald there is back in the side. We've got a first-hand view today of his form from Terry Venables. Steve scored 22 goals over the season for Barcelona. Good return, particularly after a fairly mediocre start. Hoddle is playing at Hampden Park for the very first time. It's 15 months since he started an England game, and with the World Cup just 12 months away, he must feel the way Bobby Charlton suggested, it could be now or never. But Chelsea's David Speedie, the Scot with the Yorkshire accent, finds opportunity knocks sooner than expected. He wins his first cap because of the enforced release of the Everton players. That episode has met with a hostile reaction north of the border, I ought to say. But he must be satisfied to find himself selected ahead of Mo Johnston, for example. Indeed, Speedie and Gordon Strachan are the only two players in the Scottish lineup from English clubs. Jock Stein has to do without his four Liverpool men as well as the Everton pair. He goes for a home-based defence with Dundee United's fullbacks Goff and Malpass, Aberdeen's central partnership of McLeish and Miller, augmented by a third centre-back maybe in Celtic's Roy Aitken. And he includes three from continental clubs, Captain Souness, Archibald and Belgium-based Jim Bett, who looks certain now to sign for Aberdeen. England also have three overseas exiles, Wilkins, Haitley and Francis. In fact, Haitley is the only player there not to have faced Scotland at full international level before, but he has played here at Hampden for the under-21s. The only change is Hoddle for Stephen. And while we wait for Monsieur Vautreau to call the captains up, let's have his thoughts just before the start from Jimmy Hill.
Well, you mentioned David Speedie, John. He's the interesting selection, really, for me. I can remember Dave Sexton, a long while ago, telling me about his prowess when he was up in the northeast before he went to Chelsea. And really, I've watched his progress steadily. He's a tremendously competitive player, and although he may have a Yorkshire accent, if I may say so, his temperament is sparkling Scottish. And I expect good things from him today. He's only a small player, but like Keegan, he gets tremendous elevation. He can out-jump the six-footers if he just times it right. You can see the strength in those legs there, and also the look on his face as if he means business. And alongside him, of course, Willie Miller, who always does mean business. No question about that. Fascinating, really. So much around this match. The match on Tuesday night, the big one of the year, Wales-Scotland, whichever way you look at it. And I think perhaps, although we all talk about both sides winning, I think both managers will be looking more for the form of players involved. I mean, is Barnes going to come out of the sort of lethargic last few internationals that he had and show us the kind of skill they've got in that wonderful goal against Brazil? We know it's there, it's just a question of whether he can produce it at international level. And question marks like that. I mean, Trevor Francis has suddenly back into favour and become a regular member of the side. Apparently ran his heart out in Finland, and also knows that he has to stake a claim really to hold on to that place up front from the challenge of the younger players. So I really think it's a matter of the questions the managers are going to be asking about their players, almost as much as the result. But if you're English, of course, you still like to win.
Yes, that's fair enough, Jimmy. We did have a chat with Jock Stein and Bobby Robson before the kick-off, both in cheerful mood, and bear in mind what Bob Wilson said. If this is a draw after 90 minutes, we have a penalty competition, which would be new to both England and Scotland in international terms. No extra time. Scotland in their new strip with the stripe across the shorts, but still, of course, in dark blue, playing from right to left in the first half, and England in the white shirts. The referee has handled England and Scotland matches before, so he should know what to expect, although perhaps when they meet it is rather more fierce and certainly quicker than usual early on. And the pitch will have had a little bit of rain on it, in fact quite a lot of rain, and will therefore perhaps speed the game up slightly. Richard Gough of Dundee United getting it forward. And the first free kick goes in Scotland's favour. Now Gough and McLeish are two men who are useful in going up for free kicks and corners. Souness has the ball. And McLeish is coming in there. Referee spotting some shoving. Just looking at the Scotland formation earlier on, Gordon Strachan wide on the right, Jim Bett on the left, Speedy and Archibald obviously pushed through the middle, and the holding players in midfield would appear to be Aitken and Souness. This is Aitken. Played well in the Scottish Cup final last week, by all accounts. Strachan. Challenge was by Ray Wilkins. But here's Jim Bett. Goes past Glenn Hoddle. Speedy to his left, number 11. Maurice Malpass making a run down this side. The target there is Archibald. Barnes got back. Robson. Hoddle. First player to fall on the slippery top was Malpass. Terry Fenwick. Across to the other Terry. Butcher. And Kenny Sansom couldn't keep it in. Gough with the throw, into Archibald. Looking for Souness. Moving up from left back is Malpass. And he got it back inside, Souness. Tackle was by Butcher. Wilkins found Barnes. And he was fouled by Gough. That was Malpass coming in very heavily on Trevor Francis. Word of warning from the French referee to the Dundee United fullback, who came sliding in there right on the halfway line. England substitutes, in case you're wondering today. Gary Bailey, Dave Watson, and then in attack, Kerry Dixon is on the bench, along with Lineker and Waddle, but Francis won't want too many of those, in case he has to go off and make way. Back on his feet now. offside as Fenwick takes this kick. Archibald, it was a nice touch, but the pass from Souness intercepted by Wilkins. A lot of Italian know-how on the pitch this afternoon. Malpass. It was Archibald with the touch, then Speedy. Glenn Hoddle got a foot in, and it was Wilkins who turned it back. Wilkins encouraged by Bobby Robson not to play too deep. Haitley. That was Hoddle's pass intercepted by Malpass. Butcher. Francis. Trying to turn McLeish. Robson's made a forward run here for England. And it comes out to Hoddle. To get used to these shorts that Scotland are wearing, don't you? Rain still teeming down. Speedy, jumping with Fenwick. Forward by Sansom. There's Haitley, marked by McLeish. Could be a good battle, that. Here's Viv Anderson. Haitley coming off his man. Mobility is something that he's been asked to work on. Here's Wilkins. And Francis. Nice turn by Francis.
Now that was the old treble Francis, the one that we'd love to see again. Although I said he's been working hard in internationals, he hasn't showed that capacity to get past players that he did there. That's the lad, and that's what we want. Never mind the defence, make up your own mind, go past them. And whether it was a cross or a shot, it was very close to that post.
Anderson. Free kick to Scotland. Quickly taken, Souness to Bet. Back again by Speedy to Bet. Archibald in the centre. Some crisp challenges on this greasy surface. Sort of start you come to expect in matches between the two countries. Very pacey. Here's Aitken. That was Robson who was pulled up. William Miller felt the effects of it, and it's a free kick to Scotland. Here's Strachan. Speedy's pulled off to the right here. Goff's in the centre, dangerously so, hooked away by Hoddle. It's interesting how often Scotland get the right back, or the nominal right back, Richard Goff, forward in open play. He's already made 3 or 4 foragers into the England penalty area. That's an offside. Anderson. Hoddle. Haitley's made his run. Francis in support just inside. And that was Malpass. well there, Jim Leighton. There's Butcher. There's Anderson. Again, Haitley's gone through the centre. Francis is nearer to the ball, and that was foot up, says the referee. Free kick to Scotland. Speedy was the man who went down. Terry Fenwick contests that, but the referee's given the free kick. He felt he went for the ball, the England defender. They've got McLeish, Aitken and Gough to come in from the far side. Here's Speedy, and now Bett. And Strachan. Well played by him, but the cross nearer to Robson than anybody else. Scotland attacking with gusto in this opening period. Bett. But they had to go back as far as Willie Miller, and now Gough. Oh, and Strachan got caught in possession by Brian Robson. Francis to his right. The referee has given a free kick. Now, I felt Robson was fouled when he actually let the ball go on to Francis. Possibly an advantage was played the first time, but not the second. England didn't have the run of the ball the second time, so the referee pulled the play back, and Jim Leighton has to organise his defence now, as Terry Butcher makes his way up beyond Mark Haitley on the far side. Could Glenn Hoddle be involved in this? Barnes. Well, John Barnes perfectly capable of curling them from that position into the top corner, as indeed Hoddle is. So England have a few alternatives there on free kicks today. Archibald's flick, and now it's Jim Bett. Speedy is inside. There he is, David Speedy, trying to find Aitken. Wilkins worked the ball away. Here's Robson. It's certainly fizzing in the midfield. That was Aitken's tackle. England have taken the free kick quickly. Sansom. Rather dangerous by Barnes, it seemed, but Butcher can cope. Barnes again, here's Gough. Willie Miller. Onside is he? Yes, Archibald. Butcher again, the man stepping in. Haitley battling with McLeish. Souness deep. What a lovely ball with the outside of the foot, but Viv Anderson read it so well, Bett couldn't get there. Hoddle. Now Wilkins, and Robson's latching onto this. Scotland caught looking for an offside there, but now they're on the attack with Strachan. Gough's up outside him. Strachan shoots. Fast and furious start, Jimmy.
Yes, and it's lovely to see, because the game of football is meant to be between two sides trying to beat each other, and both sides, I think, could be pleased with their start in a way. They've been positive, imaginative, and trying to break down the defences right from the start. Interestingly, Trevor Francis and Mark Hateley are playing up in central positions. He's not pushing Francis over to the right as a sort of pseudo winger in this case. They are central strikers, pure and simple, and making runs wide of that position. So it's giving Francis a much better chance to be in a positive role early on.
Speedy for Scotland. This is Malpass. Away from Hoddle, but not from Wilkins. Speedy certainly getting into the game. Malpass with the cross. Fenwick the interception and clearance. Well brought down. Quarter of an hour gone. Scotland 0, England 0. Archibald and Butcher, that was bet. Not the best weather in which to watch football, but the committee don't care about that. And there are plenty of those north of the border. Robson for England. That was McLeish. Now it's Archibald, trying to get Souness into it. He had to shake off Robson. Malpass. And Souness again. Looks for Archibald. Barnes has pushed on through the centre here, hoping to get a flick from Hateley. Wilkins finds Anderson. Hateley now. Strong man in the middle of the field there was Aitken for the Scots. Malpass couldn't change direction. Kept certainly taking a long stud. Ray Wilkins being waved back by the referee this time. Here's Hoddle. Wilkins again. Wilkins and Shilton both winning their 70th cap today for England. Plenty of experience now in Bobby Robson's team. Who are embarking on Tuesday on their summer tour to Mexico and the United States. Here's Speedy for Scotland, looking for Bet. Viv Anderson's there. But it'll be a free kick in England's favour. Viv Anderson's record playing for England, highly impressive. In his 16 matches before today, they've only lost once, and that was to Scotland 4 years ago at Wembley. Something of a lucky charm, maybe. Up goes Hateley. Francis trying to get to it. Just look at that rain. incessant since mid-morning. Butcher again, solid. Gough. That was Fenwick. This is Hoddle getting it down. Barnes trying to cut off the back pass. Scott's yet to test Peter Shilton properly. But he's by no means a spectator. He's always on at his defence, making sure they're doing their jobs. One of the great talkers among goalkeepers is Shilton. Just one reason why England's back four in front of him have played pretty well this last 18 months. Barnes. Hoddle. Took it out. Scotland can be forgiven, as Jimmy Hill said, for thinking the match on Tuesday in Iceland is far more important to their cause, but try telling their supporters that when the opposition is England. Which is why this match is always a great occasion. And is so keenly contested. Souness. Malpas. Only his second cap, the left-back. Robson got the ball away from Aitken. Sansom on to Barnes. Robson. Barnes obstructed by Gough. If you've tuned in late, there's no score. One good effort so far from Trevor Francis. This is Sansom with the free kick for England. Two players up with Haitley, and that was enough. Strachan couldn't control it. Here's Kenny Sansom. Inside to Wilkins. Robson's begun a forward run. But it all got a little bit tight on that far side. Willie Miller. Archibald. On again to Souness. Combination play was good. Brian Robson was the player penalised. Now, number 10 for Scotland, Jim Bett. Oh, back heel caught Malpas coming forward, but it was a good pass from him. Wilkins in on Strachan, free kick. Referee's very swift to pounce on anything like that. It's a game of free kicks so far. Souness to take this one. Short to Strachan. Into Speedy. Strachan again. Came off Speedy. Now it's Bett. And Souness, the captain. In again to Strachan. Terry Fenwick, the challenger. And then Anderson. Corner to Scotland. Halfway through the first half. McLeish has gone, marked by Haitley, into the 6-yard box. Difficult that for Shilton, and Aitken couldn't quite reach it, and neither could Miller. They were both at the far post. That's a foul. It's a good corner, and it had Peter Shilton scrambling to get there through a crowd. Drifted in by Gordon Strachan, the in-swinger. One of the England players defending the near post got it half away, and so too, for that matter, did Barnes at the end. Got the crowd going though. Sansom. Francis. Time to turn. Taking on McLeish. Gough came in with the tackle. Clean as a whistle. Wilkins, that was given away. Francis on the far side. And as Jim Leighton saves that from going for a corner, appears to be just a little bit of disturbance in there. Fans being relocated, it would seem, behind the right-hand goal. Police certainly involved. Here's Aitken. There is perhaps a little section of England supporters there somewhere. But they're hard to spot among all these tartan flags. Francis. Strachan trying to dribble past Sansom, who takes them on. That's his cross. Haitley goes in with the goalkeeper. A fearsome opponent, Mark Haitley, in these situations, but Jim Leighton took that well. Aitken. Souness. Same combination again. Anderson for England. Kenny Sansom, who's run and cross, produced that last piece of goalkeeping by Jim Leighton. And that was Haitley to Wilkins, and back to Butcher. Haitley pressing on now. Miller was there. Hoddle couldn't get there before Bet. It's all rather frantic. Oh, it's better though. That was a touch of class from Souness. Wonder what impact the players who now ply their trade on the continent might have on this fixture, whether they can change its shape at all from previous years. Touch of cunning wouldn't come amiss in what's usually a full-blooded affair, to say the least. Alex McLeish. Strachan. Gough. Souness wanting the ball all the time, the Scotland captain. Looking for alternatives to widen the play. Malpass. Anderson's header. Now Souness beats Robson to it, and that gives Speedy an opportunity. But everything going through Souness. Now Willie Miller. Speedy through the centre. It's Hoddle's tackle. The referee has penalised him for it. Said he fouled Strachan. And again, Gough is up on the far side. McLeish is going to join him, and so is Aitken. Souness into Malpass.
Well, I must say the Scots have got fire in their bellies, and the first thing that we must declare is that there's no question. Here he is, Malpass going through, slightly off balance, and never really going to trouble Shorten. They haven't really been able to turn their determination and enthusiasm into goal chances yet. But anybody who thinks that the players out there have got their mind on next Tuesday night or any other day are mistaken. They both want to win today, and they're both going out to win. Quite physical in its way, but no bad temper. But strong. I have to report still a disturbance behind the right-hand goal, where the police have been escorting some people out, and I rather fear that's where some England supporters have been mingling with the Scots. The track here is fairly wide, and they're being led through one of the exits at the moment, some of them, without disturbing the game.
quite a number of them now have come over the barrier to be led away. It was Aitken. This is Sansom. Wilkins to Anderson. And the taunts are still going on between the English supporters, who would appear to be the ones who've been taken out of the section, and the Scots who are still there. Back on the pitch, it's Souness. Challenge was by Hoddle, who's made a few. That was Robson, Haitley, but foul. Late challenge on Robson. Half an hour gone, no score here, as Wilkins takes the free kick, just caught Archibald and went on to Anderson. Hoddle. Haitley's coming in, but again the goalkeeper, and a supporter is on the pitch in that goal mouth. I'm afraid to say, he's in Jim Leighton's goal mouth. The referee hasn't seen that. Players at the other end, this is Souness. Strachan, Malpass making the extra man, and it was taken away from Archibald by Bet, really, and now there are quite a number of people over the barriers, and it's getting untidy and a little disturbing at the right-hand end. It hasn't yet affected the game, because the spectators are still some way off the pitch, most of them, bar that one who came on. And the yellow card has been shown in the direction of Malpass. Malpass looked to me to be the man booked there for the challenge. Francis. These continental referees tend to show the card from some yards away, but looked as though it was the left-back who was booked. This is Souness. The police seem to have restored control, and here's Archibald. And Butcher made a fine saving interception there. He played the ball, there was no doubt about that. Otherwise, Archibald would either have had a shot or else a penalty. It was a clean challenge. I don't want to harp on the disturbance, but as Steve Archibald went through here, it was Terry Butcher who disturbed his progress. England have a free kick. Kenny Sansom has made his way forward. Fenwick looking to see who's there. Haitley obviously is. Here comes Butcher. And just to clear up that little flurry, the police have now shepherded those who were coming over the barriers through one of the exits, and it seems to have died down for the moment. Sansom with the throw. Souness. Wilkins got it back. Foul. But Butcher didn't need the free kick. He was in control anyway. Much in the way of goal-scoring opportunities so far. Souness working hard to get Scotland moving. Players being closed down very quickly on both sides. That's been the pattern. Here's John Barnes, who's switched wings. Taking on Willie Miller. Over Sanson's head. Butcher a missed kick. Robson. Ten minutes to go in the first half in this international match for the Rouse Cup. Scotland 0, England 0, and not very much to choose between them. Miller comes in on Haitley, and it's a free kick. Now Haitley will make his way to the far side of the area, marked by McLeish. Terry Butcher has begun to go forward now. And the referee fussy as to where the kick is taken from. Butcher closing. And Jim Leighton under threat. Malpass heading away. Coped well so far, the keeper. Haitley's drifted onto the near post now. Butcher's there too. Here's Hoddle. Came off Bet. Hoddle again. And again, Terry Butcher forward, challenging the goalkeeper and fouling him. Well, only 1-0-0 since 1872 between these two countries, but it makes you wonder just where the first goal is coming from today. And as it gets aggravated between Wilkins and Archibald, Wilkins and Archibald get the yellow card for the scuffle. So 3 players booked now. Scotland have the free kick. This is Gordon Strachan. Richard Goff's made a good forward run here. So a French referee books one player who now plays in Italy and one who's playing in Spain, all in the cause of England versus Scotland. And nothing between them. Goff. Robson up to Haitley. That was McLeish. Good challenge. Sanson forward to Barnes. But again, there's hardly room to attack an opponent. Players are being marked so tightly. Here's Strachan. Barnes. Scotland have got a man over here. Archibald closing in, but Fenwick very calm. Anderson. And now Malpass. And Peter Shilton coming all the way here, and I don't think Terry Fenwick is quite sure, but he took responsibility and cleared well. Not quite what he had in mind, but it was effective. Trevor Francis charged to the ground this time by Willie Miller. And it's a bruising first half. Not too much subtlety about this game, but then there very rarely is when these two meet. This is Hoddle, he might provide a bit. Wilkins looking for Barnes.
Well, I'm afraid, John, you're right. There isn't much subtlety about it at the moment. There was a bit of imagination showed at the start, but there's a lot of huffing and puffing now, individual battles going on the field, and not producing much flow, I'm afraid. Really, we've had a cross from Sansom, a cross from Francis, and at the other end, a couple from Jim Bett, but not all that much productiveness at the end of the line.
And that's the way of it, with 5 minutes to go in the first half here at Hampden Park. For anybody who's joined the match late, not much in the way of scoring chances and very little between the two sides. 3 bookings, and I think Terry Venables made the point in the first half of our cup final last week. Plenty of tackles and quite a few headers, but we want a bit more shape and rhythm to the match, really, if we can get it. A lot of free kicks too. Here's Robson. And Francis goes down. And the referee would appear to have his hands full here, working out exactly what's what with these tackles. John Barnes, Francis, and here's Hoddle, couldn't get a shot in, whisked away from him. And Graham Souness looks for Archibald, and in comes Anderson, and Archibald goes hard in back at him. And this is going to get nasty unless the referee can just keep it calm. Anderson was penalised. Souness. McLeish. Speedy. This is Bett. And they've got Goff forward again there. And in goes Speedy and Strachan. And it's all Aitken with the final shot. It's all helter-skelter, hit and miss, and Peter Shilton unworried by that. And the weather conditions remain unchanged. Three minutes left in the first half. Hoddle penalised for the foul on Malpass. Terry Butcher. Francis got there a shade late. He also took an unintended whack from Goff. But here's Butcher. And now McLeish. Souness. Here's Strachan, and now Bett in a good position. He's claiming a corner as Jim Bett, thinking that Shilton got a finger to that. But the referee has given the goal kick. Gordon Strachan set play up here, and England left Jim Bett enough room there to turn and set his sights. Shot going across the goal, and out. Francis, well controlled, Hadley with a chance. Interception there was by Goff, and a timely one it was too. Bett inside to Aitken. And now it's Strachan with Aitken pushing on down the right, Speedy. Butcher's tackle adjudged to be a foul. Strachan, Speedy, and here's Archibald. And here's Aitken. And played wide offside. David Speedy. It was close, but linesmen, both from France. And they come from the home of the European champions, who tend to play a rather different style to these two teams. Last minute of the first half, no score. That's Wilkins. Sansom. And now here's Bet. That's a foul by David Speedie, who's, to say the least, not one to pull out. 4 suspensions in this eventful season for him. Haitley, Francis. Francis against Goff. Good tackle. But it's England's throw, in spite of Strachan's appeal. Sansom to Barnes. Back again to Sansom. And with no score at half-time, a match very much in keeping with the style of England-Scotland games. Jock Stein walking off, hands in pockets, thoughtful. Let's see what Jimmy Hill's thoughts were.
Well, when I think the number of fouls rises above a certain level, number of stoppages in a game, it can't really breathe in entertainment terms. There's been a lot of excitement, as I said, a lot of huffing and puffing, but at the end of the day, the good intentions for fluent, thoughtful movements gradually subsided, and as the teams, they didn't exactly go to war, but they never stopped competing with each other. The number of fouls is 27 in that one half, and that really sums it up. The game of football is not meant to be like that. But if I were Scotland, I'd be encouraged by McLeish and Miller in the middle of the defence, and Souness dominating things from the middle of the field. And I like the look of Bet. It's the first time I've really had time to have a look at him. He looks quite a promising player with imagination. For England, well, they're all doing their bit. They're 0-0 away in the enemy's lair at half-time, which I suppose Bobby Robson would say is quite a satisfactory position. But I'd be interested to know how Terry views it, having had a look at British football again.
So, at half-time at Hampden Park, in this traditional meeting between England and Scotland, playing this year for the Rouse Cup, the possibility of penalties, well, there will be if they're still level at the end of 90 minutes, but at the halfway stage, it's Scotland 0, England 0.
Scotland and Wales still both in with a chance of qualifying, maybe at the expense of each other, and they're a very solid outfit. I mean, they're very experienced at the back. I would say Malpas has impressed me least of the back four. Strachan really seems to be suffering a little bit for me of the same thing as Brian Robson, that he's had a tiring season. We're talking about Everton's tiring season. Strachan's had a tiring season too, and he hasn't quite got the freshness although he's probably quite confident in his own mind that it's still there. When you look on, you can see it. Jim Beck, he was the one who really ruined the fashion designer's idea with that, because he took his shirt outside of his pants early on in the game, but I'm glad to see the man who designed those shorts can see it in all its beauty. With the hoop, I don't know whether that makes players look slenderer. Souness, of course, has been outstanding. He loves these tight battles. What a warrior he is in the middle of the field like that. He's so cool, he lets the others panic. He keeps cool. And that man, who anybody would be pleased to have in their side, William Miller, number 6. The Scottish side, you know, you warm to them because they're so competitive and they do battle, and it'll be very interesting. It's not an easy task for England, and it seems that we, John, are destined to commentate on England's performances when they're up against it away recently.
Well, they won in Northern Ireland, didn't they? And they earned a point in Romania. There's no such thing as a draw here today, in a way, because there has to be a winner on penalties if it's level after 90 minutes, so that somebody carries away the Rouse Cup. No substitutes at half-time. Viv Anderson coming forward for England, and Hoddle occupying the right-hand side of midfield, it should be said. Curled in by Francis, and Leighton comes with one hand and gets to it. Didn't get a chance to tell you who the Scottish subs are, although you may have seen Mo Johnston warming up on the pitch at half-time. The others are Sturrock, McStay, Murdo McLeod and Alan Rough. and the two managers agreed they would play normal World Cup or European rules and use a maximum of 2. What neither manager wants today is an injury in view of what's ahead. Because there were some who doubted the wisdom of even playing this fixture in our overcrowded end-of-season programme. Here is Strachan. Haitley to Robson. Looking again for Haitley, up against McLeish. Francis coming in from the far side. Hoddle's also well forward, and so are 2 others. It was cleared by Malpass. Retrieved by Anderson. Into Robson. And now Wilkins takes over, and there's Haitley. Couldn't knock it down to Francis. That was the intention. Hoddle. That was Beck coming in, but Hoddle skillfully past him and Aitken. Strachan, Sanson. McLeish and Miller, very solid partnership there from Aberdeen. Undemonstrative sort of players, just get on with the job, like Butcher does here for England. Hoddle, Wilkins, and Anderson. Hoddle again. Haitley and Francis just switching over up front as Wilkins gets possession. Souness straight to him. And now Archibald. Jim Beck making strides in the inside left channel. Couldn't collect. Hoddle finds Robson. Francis is just inside making a run now. And Hoddle saw him. Well collected by Jim Leighton. Came off Fenwick. Kenny Sansom. It was a bit tight, but it went past Souness as well as Wilkins. Here's Robson. Ball still skidding off this wet surface. Hours of pouring rain now. This is Anderson for England. Still not a particularly cohesive game, but here's Speedy with Archibald in the centre. Came off Fenwick. It looked promising there for a moment for Scotland. Butcher. Miller and Francis. Souness away from Wilkins. Really a question, I think, of which of the midfield players can have the biggest impact now. Souness for Scotland, praised by our panel at half-time, and rightly so. But they'll be hoping on the England side to counter him with the likes of Wilkins and Robson in this second half. In which we've played for 5 minutes and the score is still 0-0. Forward by McLeish. Here's Wilkins, and now Hoddle. Perhaps he could have a say here. Floating one up for Haitley. Francis is in the centre waiting. Hoddle's joining him there now. This is Barnes. Well,
the pattern has changed early in the second half. That was Glenn Hoddle cross that started that move off, but he's imposed himself on the game in this first 5 minutes in a way that we haven't seen for some time. I can imagine Bobby Robson saying, go on Glenn, get out there and show him what skill you've got and dictate. Be comfortable on the ball in the way that Terry Venables said that Graham Souness was. And it's been a very good 5 minutes for him. He's behind several creative moves, and playing wide on the right there, he looks the player we know he can be.
That's Speedy up with Fenwick. Here's Strachan. Goal kick. Gordon Strachan there is keen to make an impression today. It's the first time he's actually started an international this season. That was Beck with Hoddle. This is Miller. Aitken, Souness, and immediately Wilkins to him. Referee's watching that very closely, and the whistle will go because Robson came clattering in as well. Oh, free kick by Souness hit the referee. What's he going to do? Take the free kick again, he says. Strachan. McLeish. That's John Barnes. Hasn't found much space so far today on this left wing for England. Might be a compliment to Gough, who's got Strachan off and covering in front of him. Here's Souness. And that was Malpass, but it came off Hoddle. Malpass again. Archibald's made a run on the left. Aitken. Oh, nicely done by Roy Aitken. That's a good ball, Speedy. And Aitken's in the middle, and Kenny Sansom was able to ward him off. Inspired piece of midfield play from the Celtic man. Souness. Gough. Strachan. Speedy. Miller's coming through, well intercepted by Viv Anderson. He's on his way with one to his right and one to his left. For England, it's Francis on the right who wants it, and the tackle coming in from behind was by Aitken and would seem to be a yellow card offence. He's saying it's his first. The referee has the card in his hand, but appears to have put it back in his pocket. Good run by Anderson and a free kick to England. Seem to be leaving it for Hoddle. Short to Francis. Takes on McLeish. Corner to England. And I rather think this is England's first corner of the match. Played short to Barnes, but look how quickly Beck was to him. Gough also, Hoddle. That was well cleared by McLeish from Haitley. Ricochet finds Haitley again. Hoddle plays it in. Robson!
Well, yet another missed hit shot by Robson. That was a lovely little chip ball which got the Scottish defence in all sorts of trouble from Hoddle. It was a nice position, but you can see the overexcitement on that young man's face. At the moment, he's just not in touch for England, Brian Robson. But Hoddle is.
Yes, in this opening 10 minutes of the second half, I think the game has calmed down and been a little more thoughtful than it was in the first half, if that's possible. Wonder if it'll last. This is Sansom. It certainly is possible because it was 100 miles an hour before half-time. This is Richard Gough taking the throw for Scotland to Souness. Willie Miller's made a run through here. Slid it on to Aitken. They're looking for Strachan. Peels for handball. John Barnes allowed to go on. Miller. And Hoddle again, a telling little pass to Wilkins. Just bearing out the point Jimmy Hill was making about Hoddle's influence growing. This is Francis. Anderson has pushed on well here. Wasn't quite sure when the ball was coming, but he's got it now. 3 waiting in the centre. Barnes! Viv Anderson again, the provider. A good cross from the right. John Barnes just got the side of his head on it, flicked it wide of the goal. It was a fair opportunity for the Watford winger. Didn't meet it perhaps quite the way he wanted. Give us a goal, sing the Hampden crowd. Malpas. Souness. And again, Hoddle is there. Promising start to the second half by England then. Jim Vett. England working well down their right-hand side in this opening period, perhaps attacking Malpas, the left back, a little. Feeling was he might have been the least comfortable of the Scottish defenders in the first half. It's perhaps what they're working on. Anderson and Speedy working on each other there. Ray Wilkins for England, wanting to open the game out and find John Barnes. Sansom's made a run down the wing. Here he is, number 3, away from Strachan. Who got back to challenge Barnes. He'd almost ran on for the Scots. Archibald. They're all a bit flat here, Scotland. They need to open it out on the left if they can. Speedy. Oh, Ryan Robson in quickly. And England beginning to move forward again. Wilkins in support, Haitley and Francis ahead. Tackled by Vett. Caught Wilkins in possession, Souness. Francis. Hoddle following up. Haitley in the centre. This is Strachan. Speedy. Bobby Robson has given his substitutes the signal to warm up. Just wonder whether he might be tempted to play another card here. He's got 3 strikers on the bench, remember. Waddle is one of them. Back by Robson. Haitley. Souness. And now Strachan. Archibald through the centre. Beck's making a run across the field. Speedy also forward. This is still Strachan. And now it's Beck. And Souness is there. Barnes, who's holding a tie-up, I think, in one hand and trying to get the ball off Souness. The flag was up for offside, so Barnes can now attend to his socks. We've been playing for an hour. The score is 0-0, and only twice in the history of this famous international have there been goalless draws. 1872, the very first one, and 1970. Which is why the crowd would love to see a goal. Sansom with the throw. Francis. It's going to come back to Kenny Sansom. Haitley's in there, Robson's in there. So is Francis. Wasn't a bad effort out of nothing. He's due a goal for England is Trevor Francis. It's some 2 years since he scored. Souness. Oh, Wilkins in quickly. It's been a bit of a jungle, that midfield. Archibald with Fenwick, and Butcher away from Speedy. Beautifully brought down by Glenn Hoddle. Forward by Anderson. McLeish's header. Robson's there, and so is Wilkins. Sansom. Now, can England find a way through here? Haitley's coming in on the far side. The whistle's gone. Francis. Haitley has been penalised. England are poised to make their first substitution, and it will be Chris Waddle, shortly to become a Tottenham Hotspur player. John Barnes would appear to be the man coming off. Speedy was the man fouled by Fenwick, and England want to make their change. John Barnes was told after the Romania match that he would have to work hard to keep his place. And he's being replaced here by the man who could threaten his position on the left of the attack, Chris Waddle. Comes on just as England defend a Scotland free kick. Here's Strachan. Let's just have Jimmy Hill's thoughts on the substitution.
Well, I almost hesitate to say that John Barnes has not been very effective, because last time I mentioned that in one match, his manager Graham Taylor took me to task and said I shouldn't say such things. He's a lovely young man, and I would dearly delight to see him play well for England, but it must be said that he hasn't. And when Waddle has come on in his place, immediately he has done something to set the game alight in a way that Barnes hasn't able to. So he deserves his chance as well, and we should be fair to him too.
On the ball, it's Hoddle. Nice play. And the cross is too deep for Robson.
It was. That's the one moment when we wanted that special bit of skill from Glenn Hoddle, and it didn't come. He's really shown some delightful touches. His control at times of awkward balls, when it just is killed instantly, is a real pleasure to watch. And if only in his old football age, as it were, he could get that extra determination to produce that skill and impose his ability on the rest of the international games, we would be in for a treat, I'm sure.
Oh, that's true, and I was just wondering, Speedy on the ball for Scotland, whether we could be in for a penalty competition here this afternoon. Perhaps now I've said that, somebody will produce a goal. That's Malpas. And this is Archibald. Three waiting in the centre for the Scots. One of them is Gough. This is Souness. Anderson got a foot in when it mattered. Robson. Waddle has taken up John Barnes' wide position on the left. And that was Francis trying to make progress on the right, but the tackles are still flying in. This is Strachan. And defenders are winning most of them. Wilkins, oh, that's a fine ball. Waddle with two waiting in the middle. And still Waddle, and it's a nice little chip for Francis. Turned it back only to Aitken, who breaks away for Scotland. Support here from Gordon Strachan. Speedy showed too much of that to Wilkins. Waddle already setting up a possibility there for England, having just come on. Strachan. Sansom. And Haitley and McLeish Francis is square. Now they want support here, England. Viv Anderson is providing it on the right now. Francis tries to go the other way. Butcher heads it back. Now Hoddle. England have got the bit between their teeth in this phase of the game. Indeed, we feel they've had the edge since half-time, the English team. Not a good ball by Terry Fenwick, though, and that's given Scotland a chance maybe to move out of their own half. Richard Gough. Archibald pulling away in the inside left position. Speedy nearer to the player with the ball. But he can make nothing of it. Brian Robson. Waddle. Haitley's on the left wing. Waddle's keen to get into the game. That was Butcher with Speedy. Free kick to Scotland. Halfway through the second half and no score. Here's Gough. That was Sansom on Strachan. McLeish and Miller are making their way up. McLeish has gone into the penalty area. Miller has hung back. Souness. This is Strachan. And it's Gough. And it was turned on again by McLeish. Here's Jim Bett. And Gough! A goal! .68 minutes gone and Scotland take the lead. And the Dundee United fullback, Richard Gough, such a useful attacker when he comes forward in those positions. The cross by Betts was beautifully judged. Gough came in and got his header wide of Shilton, who could only stand and watch. And Dundee United's right back with the attacking flair has sent those Scotland supporters into ecstasy for the time being. They lead 1-0. Slightly against the run of play, perhaps, but the Scots don't mind that. Tartan flags everywhere. Anderson. And Haitley's hovering here. Now, Scotland, who've not beaten England here since 1976, have something to bite on. A good header by Richard Gough. Wilkins. Now England's unbeaten record this season truly put to the test here now. Let's hear what Jimmy Hill felt about the goal.
Well, it was really a brilliant goal, scored by a defender, and the touch ball in it. Scottish sub coming on now. Murdo McLeod, number 14, warming up on the touchline, and Strachan's coming on. Jock Stein very excited. We know Jock only too well at BBC. There's the goal, a beautiful header at the end of the day. But it was McLeish who provided that lovely little through ball to set up the crossing position. One defender showing a forwards touch and another finishing off the move in perfect style. But it's strange that Scotland should take the lead at the end of England's best spell, but that often happens in a game of football. The best space is behind the defence, and there's the man. He's done a remarkable job. He's handled Haitley very well and played a subtle part in providing the goal.
Just to tidy up the substitution there, Murdo MacLeod of Celtic only came into the squad late in the week when Neil Simpson had to withdraw. He's on for Strachan. Scotland are leading 1-0. The Hampden crowd finding their voice now. All round the stadium, flags unfurled, as Scotland sense an opportunity to beat the old enemy. What can England do about it? Willie Miller not happy about the free kick given against him for the challenge on Francis. Alex Ferguson, the Aberdeen manager, is Jock Stein's number 2. Waddle. And Haitley's on the far side. Butcher's still there. Volleyed clear. And Archibald. Offside against David Speedie. The only previous goal that Richard Gough has scored for Scotland was on a tour to Canada 2 years ago, so he'll be far more pleased, I would imagine, with this one. It's really woken the game up. Forward by Waddle. Roy Aitken. Just touched on by David Speedie, and nicely too. This is MacLeod. He's got Maurice Malpas overlapping, number 3. And they've got Gough forward again here in the centre. Corner. Played short to MacLeod. He's been penalised. It's a free kick to England. Jock Stein has never had a victory over England at Hampden Park in his time as the Scotland manager. And Bobby Robson has never been beaten by the Scots, either as a manager or a player. So, quite a lot at stake here now. And most of all, national pride and the Rouse Cup, as the Scots continue to celebrate the goal. Number 9, Archibald. Souness helping it on. And the whistle's gone. Scotland have the free kick, but they would have preferred to play on, I'm sure. They had David Speedie in possession, in a good position, and the French referee pulled the play back. Butcher. Good interception by MacLeod. He's adding some thrust to that midfield. Here's Bett, who's putting some class into it.
There he is, the man, Jim Bett, on his run again. He's got a nice long stride. And the confidence of a Jim Baxter to go through and make his mark felt in the penalty area. Just a little bit frightened with the confrontation, I think, with Short, and tried for the corner and missed it. But quite a prospect for Scotland.
England looking now for an equaliser, and the man who's put them behind Gough seen there in defence. Here's Francis. Robson didn't get the full touch on that. There's a quarter of an hour to go. Scotland, whose squad was weakened considerably by yesterday's events, are leading England by 1-0. Should be said to balance that up that England also lost a player because of the Everton League match, but that's history now. The last 15 minutes should be absorbing here as England come forward trying to save it. This is Butcher. The Scots have got a vital World Cup match on Tuesday, and if they did win this one, it would certainly do their confidence no harm for their trip to Iceland. Butcher's in there, and so is Hoddle, and Robson just got a touch to it. It's a wretched afternoon weather-wise, but the Scottish supporters on the terraces have forgotten about that for the time being. Souness. And Hoddle forward. You get the feel of the fervour which is always associated with Scotland's football supporters, especially in their own stadium. England have got to play the crowd now, as well as an inspired Scottish team. Souness. Murray-McLeod. Forward by Malpas. Looks as though England will be using their second permitted substitute, because Bobby Robson has got Gary Lineker off the bench. Kenny Sansom. Francis to Hately, and Gough was there. England waiting to make their second change. And the Scots starting to believe now that they're going to win this match. Trevor Francis will be the man replaced when they can get Gary Lineker on. Here's Kenny Sansom to Chris Waddle. Francis. Glenn Hoddle's in the centre-forward position here. Viv Anderson out on the right wing, support from Ray Wilkins. Brian Robson's made a forward run. Oh, and Malpas and Leighton almost had a misunderstanding, and I think luck favoured the keeper a little bit there, but he's handled the ball well this afternoon, so we shouldn't begrudge him that. He really seems to me to be one of the better Scottish goalkeepers of recent years, Jim Leighton. Malpas just ducked there, and Leighton had to fall on the loose ball. England still trying to attract the attention of the French referee, but they've changed their mind as to who's coming off, because the number 10 was to be held up, and in the interim period they've gone for the number 4, so it looks as though Hoddle is the man to come off. Crossed by Speedy, half away by Butcher. Here's Gough again. Bet. Obviously decided on the bench to keep all the strikers on, and when they're one down, that's not all that surprising. Archibald, though, is going to make it worse unless England are careful. This is Souness. And now Malpas goes down the left wing. Speedy. And Archibald in with Butcher. Souness drips it in for Bet. Shilton having to save. From Jim Bet. Another case of the ball played long to the far post and the Scottish forward winning his header against the last England defender. 10 minutes to go, and Glenn Hoddle is brought off. On goes Gary Lineker, who made his debut here in this match last season for England, but here's Jimmy Hill for a moment.
Well, I'm only dealing with the fact that they've actually stopped the game when there was no reason to stop it. I think, you know, at that point to get the substitute on. I didn't see any infringement there. Betts, and he's now taking what appears to be a free kick.
Well, they're making 1 or 2 special rules maybe for the longest international fixture on the football calendar. The England team one down. Robson Francis, Lineker's in the centre, and a corner is forced. And a Scotland injury will certainly cause momentary concern on the bench. They're so close here to what would be a morale-boosting victory, the Scots. But when the game restarts, England will have a corner, and that's never an easy position to defend when there's been a delay. Lineker has just come on. Butcher and Fenwick are attacking the near side of the goal. Waddle to take. Fenwick goes first. Butcher is up with Aitken. Anderson. Scotland appealed there. Referee has let play go. Aitken misses his tackle. It's all rather untidy, that, but Willie Miller showed fortitude coming out of defence. Kenny Sansom didn't know where the ball was. Beck did, and then Sansom found it himself and got a free kick, presumably for the push by Bet. Well, these could be exciting closing minutes at Hampden Park. Time, there's about 7 minutes plus what the referee may add on for stoppages, and Scotland lead England by a goal to nil. Forward by Wilkins. And here's Souness as Aitken was flattened. This is Speedy. Archibald's gone to the left. Speedy looks the other way and finds the inevitable Gough in support. He's really felt like an extra attacker, the right back. He was marking, got taken off, John Barnes, so it's been quite a useful afternoon for the Dundee United player. Brian Robson, I feel, has possibly taken a bang on the ankle. He's not running too well at the moment. Aitken warding off Lineker. England have used both their substitutes, so I don't see Robson coming off unless it's desperately painful. Now then, Lineker. Jim Leighton ought to take that comfortably, and he can get Scotland's attack moving here with this very impressive number 10, Bet. No wonder Aberdeen want to get him back from Belgium. He looks an elegant player. Gough. Inside to Murdo-McLeod. Archibald couldn't get it on to Speedy, who was waiting in the box. Now Malpass has to make a challenge here. Well, a match played for the most part in a torrential downpour. Didn't have much shape before half-time, but it's certainly coming to quite a conclusion. Francis is fouled as England search for a way back. And Jock Stein checks his watch. And he'll discover there are just over 5 minutes left here as Ray Wilkins prepares to take the kick. Anderson is well forward for this. So is Butcher. And Anderson's there. And Jim Leighton, a good save. Bad marking, actually, by Scotland initially to let Viv Anderson in, but the goalkeeper reacted well. Wilkins took the free kick on the right, and Anderson's always a danger in those positions, sneaks in for a header there, although the defenders wouldn't be too proud of themselves. He was slightly off balance and didn't get the power to beat Leighton. So England's right back tries to do for them what Scotland's number 2 achieved at the other end. And the Scots supporters have got that old World Cup feeling just at the moment. Francis wanted too long on the ball, denied by McLeod. Now then on the break, David Speedie. Archibald's on the other side. There are two others coming to help him. Goff's made another good run, and here's Bett. Swung right across towards Archibald. McLeod. Archibald. Souness. Bit short that actually, and Brian Robson intercepted. And a free kick given. A better match in the second half, there's no doubt about that. Robson forward to Lineker. This oldest of all the international fixtures still open as Waddle gets the ball. England have 3 minutes in which to rescue themselves and force a penalty shootout, but those Scottish supporters seem to feel that the Rouse Cup in its first year is coming north of the border. The flick on doesn't find Haitley, but the clearance was hurried. Here's Wilkins. Francis. And still Francis. Murdo McLeod sticking to his task. The ball has not gone out. Francis. And Lineker was in, and it went behind Haitley. England have not finished yet, but that's a mistake by Wilkins, and Scotland might finish them here. Speedie, they've got 4 against 3. Souness is pulled away to the left, but the pass gave him no chance. It was overhit. 2 minutes to go at Hampden Park. Scotland 1, England 0. Waddle. Robson's made a forward run, and Haitley's there, and that was dangerous. Willie Miller made a good interception, and Scotland perhaps just a little anxious at the back as they realise how close they are. It's been an altogether better football match in the second half. Some of that unnecessary aggression went out of it after half-time, and the referee's done all right. This is Wilkins. Scots supporters whistling impatiently as Viv Anderson makes the extra man for Francis here. Lineker, awkward, and Roy Aitken had to do something there. This is Haitley. And McLeod wasn't at all sure of himself, and Scotland now are defending more in desperation than with confidence in the last minute. Wilkins to Robson. It needs a calm head back there, and the referee has awarded a free kick. The 50th foul of the match. The crowd thought it might be the final whistle, but the Scots have got some nail-biting to do here. England have a free kick. It'll be taken by Wilkins, who lifts it, and Anderson, and Butcher was coming in. Scotland have pulled everybody back. Can they win the ball here? If they can. Well played by Kenny Sansom. Time to be added on now for stoppages by the French referee. Have England got anything left? Haitley here. Alex McLeish. England throw though. This could be their last chance. Butcher has gone forward. And the referee has blown. Scotland win the Rouse Cup and defeat the old enemy at Hampden Park for the first time since 1976. It's England's first defeat of the season. And Richard Gough, the Dundee United right back, was the reason they lost. Predictable scenes on the pitch and on the terraces. as that doyen figure of world football, Sir Stanley Rouse, who looks the calmest man in the ground, comes out to make the presentation of this new trophy. Well, the Scots will revel in this for some time to come. It wasn't a classic match, but any victory over England is precious to them, especially when there's a trophy at stake. And although the rain has poured down in Glasgow all afternoon and most of the day, it hasn't dampened the spirits of those supporters who saw their team win the match in the second half at a time when England felt that perhaps they had the edge. That's just how football goes. And a good tonic this for Scotland for their World Cup qualifier away to Iceland on Tuesday, and a victory achieved, remember, with a number of players, especially those from Liverpool and Everton, unavailable. So Graham Souness, a proud captain, as he comes forward to receive the cup from the man after whom it is named, Sir Stanley Rouse. Every Scottish player getting a cheer and a memento. And there were some good personal performances in the second half by the Scots when they came back from a period when England looked to have got on top. Graham Souness with the trophy. He relished the occasion. And here with his thoughts on the way the match finished is Jimmy Hill.
Well, although no Scotsman will believe it, I'm quite enjoying the excitement here of the Scots receiving their trophy and going off to Iceland with the maximum confidence on Tuesday. But I think there really are lessons to be learned from that England team. There was a lot of competition, there was a lot of fight and fire from, but at the end of the day, I think we have to reach the conclusion that our front players are not good enough to score goals prolifically at international level. This is the third or fourth game in which I've seen them struggle and not create the number of chances that will give you a 2 or 3 goal margin at the end of the game. I mean, if you counted them on your hand almost, that's as much as you could do, the number of chances that the England team did. And it's sad from that point of view, but never mind, let's rejoice with the Scots and with Sir Stanley. What a marvellous man there, 90 years of age, and still as full of enthusiasm for the game of association football as he ever was. And now to hear Terry's and Bobby's verdict, back to Bob.
Well, I know one thing that Sir Stanley would have loved, lads, is the fact that not a classic match, but certainly a classic goal, textbook goal as regards the header, Terry.
Yeah, it was ironic because I felt McLeish had a tremendous game in stopping all routes for us. And then he finds himself out there wide left and a perfect cross. And of course, the right back, who I thought had a good game also, came in and met the centre very cleanly.
Yeah.
Over the back of Kenny Sansom.
Well, let's have a look at it straight away. And you mentioned Kenny Sansom, and there you are.
Yeah, he just crosses it here, and he gets caught flat. He don't know where the guy's coming from, and he just out jumps him. There's nothing we can do about it.
Kenny Sansom isn't exactly the biggest fella, is he, Bobby, really, on the far post there?
No, he's not. And also he's jumping from a standing start, whereas the lad Gough comes from a deep position into a run, so he's able to get